If you've ever spent a day gardening, you know that feeling, right? The sore back, the aching muscles from just turning over soil. But what if I told you all that backbreaking work wasn't just unnecessary, but it might actually be harming your garden? Today, we are digging into a method that promises way better results with way less effort. Yep, we're talking about the no-dig revolution. And trust me, it might just change how you see your garden forever. I mean, for generations, this has been the question. That picture of a gardener turning over the soil with a spade, it's iconic. It feels so productive, like we're waking the earth up for new life. But as we're about to find out, this old tradition is getting a serious reality check. You know the drill. Every spring, millions of us get out there for the big ritual of tilling, digging, and turning. It's always step one, and it's almost always the hardest part. But is this annual battle with the soil really what it takes to get a great harvest? Well, everything we've looked at suggests maybe not. Okay, so let's peel back that top layer of soil and look at what's really going on when we dig in. We've always been told it's good for the garden, but the science and the actual experience of a lot of farmers tells a very, very different story. So this is where it gets really fascinating. Look at the disconnect here between what we think we're doing and what's actually happening. We dig to soften the soil, but over time it totally wrecks the natural structure and leads to hard, compacted ground. We think we're getting rid of weeds, but what we're really doing is giving millions of dormant weed seeds a wake-up call and pulling them to the surface. And that amazing living ecosystem of microbes and earthworms, tilling just decimates it. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. This is probably the most profound damage of all. You've got to think of soil not as just dirt, but as a living, breathing community. There's this incredible fungal network, basically an underground internet, that connects plants, letting them share nutrients and information. And every time we plunge a spade into the ground, we're just severing those connections, tearing that web to shreds. Okay, so if digging is the problem, what's the solution? Well, this brings us to the core of this whole thing, the idea of no-dig farming. It's a concept that is so simple, but it is truly revolutionary. And I mean, the definition is pretty much in the name. You just stop digging, you stop tilling, you stop turning the soil over. Instead, you work from the top down. You feed the soil by adding layers of organic stuff like compost or leaves right on the surface. Now, this is a super important point. Some people hear no dig and immediately think lazy gardening, but it's actually the opposite. It's a really smart approach where you stop being the manual laborer and you start being the manager of a microscopic workforce. You supply the food, and the earthworms, bacteria, and fungi do all the hard work for you, gently and way more effectively. So how do you even start? Well, one of the most popular ways is incredibly easy. You literally just lay a piece of cardboard flat on the ground right over any grass or weeds, soak it with water, then pile on a nice thick layer of compost. About 15 centimeters should do it. And that's it. You're ready to go. You can plant right into that fresh compost immediately. The cardboard smothers the old weeds and then just breaks down into food for the soil. It's brilliant. All right, let's get to the good part, the results. What happens when you actually do this? Well, once you stop fighting the soil and start feeding it, this incredible cascade of positive changes starts to happen, and it's been documented by gardeners and farmers all over the globe. This chart here is from a study on Dutch farmers who switched to no-dig, and it gives a fantastic overview. You can see the direct lines from the method to better plant growth, more life in the soil, and, the big one for many of us, way fewer weeds. It's a complete system where everything works together. And just listen to this from one of those farmers. This isn't just a theory. It's something you can see and measure. He said the life in his garden explodes, and that under a microscope, his soil was just teeming with life compared to his neighbor's tilled field. I mean, you can't get much more powerful proof than that. Let's talk more about weeds because, let's be honest, they're the worst part of gardening. No-dig is so clever because it tackles weeds from a few angles. By not digging, you leave all those millions of weed seeds buried deep where they can't sprout. Then, the thick layer of compost on top acts like a blanket, blocking sunlight from the few seeds on the surface. The end result? Weeding just becomes less and less of a chore every single year. And here's another huge benefit: water. Healthy, undisturbed soil filled with organic matter acts like a giant sponge. It soaks up rainwater and holds onto it, creating a natural reservoir for your plants during dry spells. That means less work for you and a garden that's way more resilient when the weather gets tough. Of course, no gardening method is perfect. So, to give you the full picture, we've got to talk about the potential challenges. Because while it's easy to get excited, beginners can definitely run into a few common issues. And here's a perfect example from someone's real-world experience. They went no-dig to solve their weed problem, but found that while it killed the grass, a few really stubborn weeds with deep roots just pushed right through the cardboard and compost. And they were even tougher to get out. So let's be totally clear about the trade-offs. That amazing, moist, rich environment you're creating, well, slugs and snails think it's paradise too. And starting from scratch requires a lot of compost, which can get pretty expensive if you can't make your own. And as we just saw, it's not a silver bullet for every single type of weed out there. But when you weigh those challenges, which are honestly pretty manageable, against the incredible benefits, a whole new picture of gardening starts to emerge. It becomes less about brute force and a lot more about collaboration. I just love this quote because it really gets to the heart of the no-dig philosophy. It's a fundamental shift in your mindset. You stop thinking about conquering the land and start thinking about cooperating with it. You're not fighting the soil anymore. You're its partner. And this is why it matters so much, beyond just getting a few extra tomatoes. When you go no-dig, your garden becomes a little wilder, a little more alive. It becomes a habitat. Healthy soil also pulls more carbon out of the atmosphere. So that one decision to put down the shovel can turn your little patch of land into a tiny but powerful force for good. So in the end, the choice is yours. The old way has that familiar satisfaction of a hard day's work. The new way offers a partnership with nature itself. So as you plan your garden this year, the question isn't just to till or not to till. It's about what kind of relationship you want to have with the living earth right beneath your feet.